excuse ourselves to see that any...
Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with internationally active jazz vocalist, composer, and educator Ester Wiesnerova. She is based in Slovakia, and she just released a visually stunning debut CD that has a wonderful audio collective. The new 2022 CD, The Blue Journal. It includes 11 original compositions written for a unique quintet, including harp and percussion. The compositions unfold somewhere between folk and contemporary jazz. She was first discovered on the Voice of Czechoslovakia, a television singing competition, before beginning her professional career. She is a strong believer in music as a tool for social change. She organized concerts in prisons and homeless shelters, taught a homeless women's choir, and co-led regular workshops for teenagers in psychiatric hospitals. She has a fascinating story. Enjoy. Hey, thank you for taking a minute out for Neon Jazz today. I appreciate it.
Of course, I'm glad to be here.
So, I have been doing this show for 11 years. I've done 750 episodes, almost 2,000 interviews, and I have never, ever seen a CD the way your CD came through to me. It was one of the most visually stunning, impressive packaging pieces of music that I've ever seen.
Oh, Joe, that means a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, and it's wonderful. I kind of moonlight as a poet myself, and I take pictures all the time. I could just feel what a wonderful concept to package all of that together along with the music to make such a good artistic statement.
Yeah, I'm hoping that, especially in a country like Slovakia where people are not that accustomed to jazz, that the visual will help them absorb and understand the music a little better.
How is Slovakia doing today?
All is good. I just got here from Germany.
You're talking to someone from the middle of America here. I've never been over there before. I'm curious what the jazz scene is like, what the music scene is like, and how it enticed you to get into music.
So the classical music scene is very strong here. I wouldn't say it's such for the jazz scene. How I got into music was through my mother, who is a singer-songwriter and was very active, especially in the Soviet era, and writing, all of these protest songs and spiritual songs, pretty much anything that was kind of dangerous at that time. And yes, so listening to her records, she also had some jazz and gospel records. I got into jazz and improvisation.
Speaking of protest songs in Russia and everything that's going on, it's almost as though we're entering another era of that kind of, as we referred here out west with the Cold War. What's kind of the general mood and feeling going on?
I need to say I'm very proud and honestly a little bit surprised by how well I feel Slovakia has handled the situation and really supported, quite a big amount of refugees who got here because we're neighboring Ukraine. Yeah, I feel like we're scared, I think, as most countries around, but I also feel like people are really stepping out of their comfort zone to help all the people coming in, and I'm really proud of that.
Well, if I can offer any words of encouragement from my perspective as an American here in the middle of America, we felt, not probably in the same way, but we felt an overwhelming fear when we thought Donald Trump was going to get reelected, like absolute cold fear. And I can tell you, with the amount of countries and support around the world that are supporting Ukraine and going against the rhetoric that's coming out of the Kremlin, I can tell you the fact that we elected Joe Biden and Trump didn't get in, and the fact that there's so much unilateral support for Ukraine, I think that this may be another example of good defeating evil in the world.
I do feel that way, and I'm really glad it is turning out this way because it wasn't so clear, especially at the beginning of the conflict. But it really seems like, the world is pretty much uniting with Ukraine, which is really, really beautiful and slightly unexpected even to me. And exactly as you said, like a statement that there's still some good in the world.
The evil will, hopefully go away. So what I want to know from you is, how did this journey to this debut album begin for you? Did you always feel as though it was going to be a journal that was going to be so well put together? How did all of this kind of happen to become what it is now?
So the songs have kind of been writing themselves over the past nearly 5 years, while I was traveling quite a lot for work and for my music and for my musical studies to the US and Asia. I lived in India for a little bit, and all of this was really wonderful. Looking back, I kind of started losing a sense of my own culture and who I really was in the middle of all that, because I kind of adopted a little bit of each of those cultures. And I was writing about all of that as it was happening, not realizing that it's happening, as, we humans usually don't in the moment, only in retrospect. I always wanted to do an album. I think like for the past 3 or 4 years, I had enough material. And as I was looking at all of these songs, I realized that they really feel like, my kind of personal search for who I am. And it became so relevant, especially during COVID. And I really felt like so many people were on that same journey and on that same search with me, that I just wanted to encourage them to think about these things and to maybe hear about my journey and hope that it would help them in their own. And that's how Blue Journal came about. The idea of the journal, because I was thinking about how to make this interactive, how to make the listener think deeper and really take time to listen to the music, because so many people nowadays don't really take the time to just listen. They do it while they do someone else, and I do it myself sometimes. But I really wanted to kind of force them to take that time and to have something where they can write their thoughts and something visual as well, so that they create the album themselves, like they're co-creators of their own album they have at home. And that was really the idea behind it.
And you have a wonderful Grammy Award-winning engineer, Aliromo, that's on here. That had to just add to what you were creating.
Exactly. So that was very magical, because all I heard some of the music, to be quite frank, since I'm a beginner artist, I could never afford what he does and his amazing services, but he just said he will do it in kind because he loves the music so much. So that was really, really special for me.
So much goodwill going into this. What a beautiful presentation. You got a wonderful engineer. It just seems like this is quite a magical beginning to your debut album career.
It does, and I hope it continues that way.
As the world has been going through COVID for the last couple years, very few live shows. I'm curious, we all had a lot of extra time to be with ourselves and to reflect on our lives. What did you learn about yourself over this last 2 years that maybe you didn't realize before that will make you that much stronger as you promote this debut album?
I would need to take a little more time to answer this properly, I think. But just the first idea that comes to mind is that, it's not always about the hustle and like feeling like I need to, get in touch with this many people and do this much music. I think I started focusing more on quality rather than quantity. That's the best way to put it. And to really choose what I put my time and energy into, and to really go deep and to take the most out of it rather than kind of spread myself thin.
The other thing that, America loves and has loved for a long time is the American Idol and that kind of singing competition on TV. And you won the Voice of Czechoslovakia. Talk to me a little bit about how all of that happened and what it did for you.
So this happened when I was 16, so, more than 10 years ago. And what it did for me was that I realized I don't belong to the showbiz and pop culture world. I think that was the biggest takeaway, honestly. Yeah, because I felt like a product most of the time, and I didn't really have a good experience with the press either. And so I'm really glad I tried it. I think if I didn't do it, I would not know this. I would know that it's not for me, and maybe I would keep trying. Pursuing that, but pretty much after The Voice, I just knew that I am doing jazz, and that's not my world.
It's interesting you say that because, somebody that covers jazz, I've been in other journalistic realms, I've done other things. I have never met a more grounded, humble, intelligent, and emotionally secure group of people like jazz musicians are. It's a very wonderful group. Do you feel like that?
I think so. Largely, yes.
I mean, that would have to make you feel a little bit, I mean, I don't know. I sometimes as an interviewer, reporter kind of get, what are you going to ask? And I don't get into surprise journalism and all of that. I kind of view our conversations like you would like craft a set. Jazz is improv. You want people to feel good. That's the way it should be. I think that's the way an interview should be. So I'm sure coming from that other world of pop and kind of bigger things, there's a lot more surprise that goes into that.
Definitely. And a lot more, maybe taking out of context or kind of boxing people according to their character or, it wasn't a very nice world for me.
Yeah. Who were some of your influences growing up? I'm curious, growing up in Slovakia, like what kind of jazz influences did you get? What motivated you to want to become a jazz singer?
So I think what influenced me is actually very, very unusual, and most Slovaks didn't have access to such music because, again, my mom was collecting all of these records, illegally, like she had access to them. So we had Joan Baez, and we had, Johnny Mitchell, so some songwriters. We had Mahalia Jackson, some gospel. She listened also to a lot of traditional Latin American music from all kinds of regions, which was another interesting influence there. And as for traditional jazz, I think I only encountered Ella Fitzgerald around the age of like 12 or 13, which is when I was already interested a little bit in jazz, and I just went down the YouTube hole and discovered Sarah Vaughan and Billie Holiday and all the greats, and that's where I really started, with singing standards and transcribing, not knowing that that's what I'm doing is called transcribing. I just repeated what I heard. Yeah, so I think those were the influences.
What was the first live jazz show you ever saw that really blew you away, made you think, wow, that's wonderful?
It was the Chris Byers Quartet, who is a local New York musician, and they were performing at the American Embassy in Slovakia. And I very much remember that and loved it and loved the freedom and the energy it had. I remember I've never seen anything like that before.
Talk to me a little, I know you said you came from Germany, and have you spent some time in the States, in New York? Talk to me a little bit about where you've kind of been in your career.
Yeah, so it started off in Slovakia until I was 18, which is when I went to U.S. to attend Berkeley. I was pretty much in the States for about 4 years until I finished my degree. And then I got some offers, to teach in India, as I mentioned, so I was for India for 4 months. Then I toured in China and in South America, so that was also about a month each for those tours. Came back to the US for a little bit, finished my master's in jazz composition, this time at the New England Conservatory. Lived in New York while studying in Boston at the New England Conservatory, which was an amazing adventure, but not one I would want to repeat with all the commuting. Yeah, I think that's about it, and then different places in Europe, just for concerts or like small tours.
Were there any plans for you to stay in America, or did COVID make it something where you wanted to come back to your homeland? How did that work for you?
I was always dreaming of coming back home to Slovakia and to start the first school of jazz and contemporary music here. I think really since I left, maybe since I was 17 or 18. So I knew eventually I'd like to go back, but I definitely didn't plan to do it this quickly. So what happened pretty much is that COVID hit. I was still finishing up my master's. I finished it online in May 2020 already from Slovakia. And in the beginning of the pandemic, it just felt right for me to return because no one really knew what this is. And, I wanted to be with my family and in times like that. And then my visa expired and, there were other legal issues that made it impossible or very difficult for me to come back at this point. So I'm here for now, and I may return at some point in the next few years.
What do you like the best about being a professional musician? What is it that motivates you every day to do what you do?
That music changes lives and changes how humans see the world. That's it for me. And whenever I see that happen, and I see it happen over and over again, that's it for me. That's why I do it.
Let's say you come to Kansas City and you perform with your group, and you have to promote this show. You have to explain, like on a social media post, what a live show would be like and why somebody in Kansas City should come see you. What would you say?
Because they will be able to rest. And I mean, that's really hard. That's a hard question. Usually I think about my social media posts for about an hour. It's kind of hard to put it out like this. I mean, I would like to claim, that they leave the show in a very different state of mind that they entered. And if they want to calm their mind down, and if they want to hear live interaction on the stage and hear, sensitive, relatable music, then that's it. But I would probably put it into much better words if I spent some time thinking about it.
Yeah, no, I like that. No, I think that's great. So why do you love jazz?
Because it's interactive, and that's the main thing.
If you could get into a time machine and go back in time and see anybody in the world of jazz live, who are you going to go see?
Ella Fitzgerald.
Where at?
Oh, wow. This is getting very specific. I'd like to actually see her somewhere in Europe and see how the European audience responded at that time to her.
That's interesting.
I don't have a specific city.
Now that the world's waking up, you have an album coming out and you can promote it live. People are going to see live shows. I know it's happening more and more here in America. What do you hope we all realize about the power of live music as we get back to it?
That it can change just who we are and how we respond to each other, and that it awakens this human essence in us in some way that was kind of difficult to channel during the pandemic. And I think anyone who sees a live show after a long time really feels that there's just something being awakened that wasn't there before for such a long time.
Hey, thank you for taking some time out. Thank you for the music. Good luck with everything as the world opens up.
Thank you so much, Joe.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest minds and players and singers in Germany, Slovakia, Kansas City, and spots all over the globe, giving fans all that jazz. Thanks to Esther for her time, music, and stories. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino in the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. And finally, for everything Joe Domino related, go to joedomino.com, and if you feel like it, you can kick in a few bucks to the Neon Jazz cause. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
But deep inside, I'm even more thirsty.
Neon Jazz.